Welcome back. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media. Relationships go south sometimes. Humans are complex creatures, and our love lives are even more complex. As days go by and our lives get busier, it is often our links with our loved ones that suffer the most. When communication and connection breaks down, it takes knowing both yourself and your partner to make the meaningful changes to turn things around. So let us learn more on how to rebuild relationships with Anisa Moosa, who is the Chief Social Worker at Islamic Careline. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Anisa, and shukran for joining me.
You, Sister Maryam, to all the listeners. It's been a really, really long time since we did a program together. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad to chat to you again.
Yes, it has been. I hope you have been well and keeping well and enjoying the fast, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, it's over already, and I hope it's been good on your side as well.
Alhamdulillah, shukr. All right, so Sister Anisa, let's start first with relationships and why do they fail?
Okay, so the reasons often, you spoke about in your introduction, you spoke about communication. Communication is something that suffers when anything goes wrong in a relationship. So, and the other thing that also suffers often is trust. And trust is something that's very, very hard to rebuild, unfortunately, when it's violated or it's breached. But I'm just going to focus a little bit. So relationships can break down for various reasons. And we know that sometimes it could just be misunderstandings. Often it's misunderstandings. Sometimes it's wanting different things, maybe different expectations. But just before we go on to that, I just want to look at some of the things that you would look for in a relationship that is struggling. What is where the concern would come is where there's resentment for whatever reason, there's disrespect or abuse, there's mistrust, there's dishonesty, there's distance. And we find that particularly, when you look at marital relationships where people don't talk to one another. So, when people are fighting, they have a relationship and they fight, at least there's some kind of active communication. And I say active communication because even silence is a sign of communication, right? But when you look at relationships where there's the distance, there's usually detachment, and that's a big area of concern. And then people become defensive, there's contempt, there's a lack of contentment in a relationship. There might also be feelings of not belonging in that relationship or not fitting in that relationship. The identity of that relationship suffers. So the perception of that relationship, there may be embarrassment about the relationship. So those are some of the things, some of the emotions, and some of the feelings, some of the perceptions of a relationship that's struggling.
All right. So what are the signs of a struggling or a relationship that is not doing well?
Okay, so the signs of such a relationship would be those things: the defensiveness, the distance, the resentment, the disrespect, the mistrust, the trust is broken, this contempt, the communication is struggling. They either don't want to speak to one another, and there might be also one unwillingness to want to repair the relationship when it's gone so bad. And then the next thing I could look at, we'd look at what is it that we need to be doing to try and fix such a relationship. So the first step would be to reevaluate that relationship. So the two people, or even many people in that relationship, needs to look at what are the positive things about that relationship. So in a relationship, I would ask myself, okay, if I'm staying in this relationship, what is it that keeps me here? What are the things that are not right about it, that's not fulfilling, that I would like to change? What is meaning that are attached to this relationship? What purpose does it play in my life, and why is it that I want it? What are the objectives of this relationship? So, sometimes we have, like, take for example, a marriage. Two people might have different expectations. They might think, okay, one person might look at a marriage as being companionship and family. Somebody else might look at it as, okay, you know what, I got married because I was getting pressure from everybody, or it is expected of me, or whatever it is. And then, what are the needs? What are you needing from that relationship? What are you hoping for in that relationship? So those are some of the important things you need to be asking yourself when you decide, okay, this is a relationship that I feel I need to or want to work on, all right? We mentioned communication, and I think one of the first things we need to do is try to communicate effectively. Now, we know we've done programs in the past about communication. Communication can be one of the most complex things. We use it very, very loosely, but there's lots of, we actually have come to times in our lives where we have to learn skills on how to effectively communicate, whether it be listening. And I think listening is a foundation for effective listening. We often don't listen. And that is why we don't understand each other. We say, marriage or relationships are based on understanding and compromise, but often we don't stop to listen. We often talk more than we listen. The importance of listening, I can't emphasize enough. And then also the willingness to resolve conflict. And when these the attempt to resolve conflict, we need to remember to address issues. When we try to resolve conflict, often what happens when we get into arguments is we attack people. So we use the blame, we use the you language instead of taking ownership and responsibility and using the I. We lose sight of the issue at hand. So today I have an argument with you about something in particular, and then I bring up something of the past, and I start saying you are this kind of person, and you always do this, and you like this. So we then take the focus off what's the issue at hand. So when we try to resolve conflict and we address issues, it must be constructive, because often we say, okay, fine, let's resolve this. And then we get into an argument, and it's not constructive because we bring up things that may not be relevant, or things of the past, right? Then, something like, even in terms of sustaining a relationship. This is not just about fixing a relationship. It's about sustaining a relationship. A lot of these things that I'm going to mention is about fixing a relationship, rebuilding a relationship, but also sustaining a relationship. So the other thing is to learn to do nice things for each other, because in relationships, we take each other for granted. Yeah. It's such a nice thing. And, now nice eats, right? And everybody finds eats, and we'll do nice things. But those are it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be those little things. And, that brings me to the topic of the 5 love languages. And unfortunately, we don't have time for that. But, when we understand what the person's love language is, even if it's a simple gesture like making time for them, if their love language is quality time, or if their love language is a gift, like I said, it can be a chocolate. It can be, okay, if the person is a coffee lover, which I particularly am, to surprise them with a coffee or whatever it is, but it's about the gesture. Right? So doing nice things for people, helping them out around the house, if that's their love language. Then cut out external influences. So it's part of problem management and problem solving, is to look at what are the external factors and how relevant they are and how they're affecting the relationship, and then setting boundaries around the relationship that protect the relationship from those external influences by finding ways to address or minimize the effect of the external influences on the relationship. Then the next thing is forgiveness, is extremely important. And I know our last program was on forgiveness. And even this morning, I was listening to the radio, and they had a program and they mentioned forgiveness. And although forgiveness is a process, the honest truth is I can't say forgive and forget. If it's deep-seated stuff, you have to work through it. But there has to be an attempt to forgive in a healthy way. And forgiveness is healthy, because when you hold on to past stuff, it eats at you. And they say that you give a person as much control as a person has as much control over you as you give them. So the more resentment you harbor and you allow it to fester in you, they could be going on doing their own thing, not even knowing that you're harboring all these negative feelings. So forgiveness is healthy and it's important. But with forgiving people, we also need to learn to apologize. So it's a two-way thing. And that's about taking responsibility and owning stuff that we've done in a relationship. Because, I always say relationships are mutual responsibility. So if, let's say, for example, the two of us are friends, I can't be doing all the work and you, so, but it has to be two ways. I mean, eventually in any relationship, like I said, even a friendship, if I'm only phoning you all the time, eventually I'm going to stop. The relationship takes work from two sides. Then
let me stop you there for a moment, Anisa. We need to take a quick break, but
take a break.
we will,
Okay.
we will continue afterwards.
Sure.
Right.
This Ramadan, can we still feel the heartbreak, the grief, the pain? Islamic Relief needs you to keep feeling, because the believers are like one body. When any part aches, the whole body aches. Feel their pain. From just 450 Rand, you can ease their pain this Ramadan. Donate now to Islamic Relief. Visit www.islamic-relief.org.za.
Looking to get your kick? Kiki's have now reopened on 235 Matthews Maiwa Road in Durban. Head on over for the Taste with Kick. We offer something scrumptious for everyone in the family. Wraps, chicken tikka, burgers, tender grills, mocktails, milkshakes, and so much more. Corporate and events catering available. Visit our social media pages for more info or call 031 209 0119. Kiki's, the Taste with Kick.
Motala Perfumes, one of the biggest perfume manufacturing houses in Africa, with a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility specializing in designing, creating, developing and producing new scents and matching designer fragrances for all our stores, as well as private labeling for individuals and companies across Africa. Visit your nearest Motala Perfumes store or visit our website at www.motalaperfumes.com for more information on creating your own brand. Our efforts continue all through the blessed month of Ramadan.
So our aim is to, inshallah, literally save a few lives in whichever little way.
Thanks to your support, we have provided thousands of people with staple and nutritious food pack supplies, access to fresh and clean water and education supplies, and so much more.
I think it's a lot about the community and our well-wishers.
Penny Appeal utilizes your Fitra donations to help make a difference to the lives of some of the most vulnerable and needy families.
And for that, every single day, we're really thankful for given the opportunity to serve humanity.
We ensure they receive their food packs well ahead of Eid, ensuring that every family we serve benefits from your Fitra contribution. Fidya and or kafara also accepted. Visit www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
It's been a household name for years. It's been an important ingredient in South African kitchens, and it's been an affordable, healthy choice for your family. Helios. First our pure sunflower cooking oil, and now introducing Helios margarines and spreads. Following the same traditions and tastes you've grown to love and trust from Helios. Fortified with vitamins A, D, and E, also rich in omega-3 and 6 essential fatty acids for a healthy eating lifestyle. Helios margarine and spreads. Available now at all leading South African supermarkets. Helios margarine. The tradition lives on.
You are listening to Mid-Morning Talk with Maryam Mkwanda, Wednesday and Thursdays, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media. It is 11:19, and I am still joined by Anisa Moosa, who is the Chief Social Worker at Islamic Careline, and we are talking about rebuilding relationships. And before the break, Anisa spoke about when trust is broken and that relationships are mutual, a mutual responsibility. It's a two-way street and not something for one person to only put in the effort. Both parties involved in the relationship, whether it's a friendly relationship, whether it's a parent-to-child relationship, whether it's a spousal relationship, either way, it's a two-way street. Anisa, shukran for staying on the line, and you may continue.
You're welcome, Sister Maryam. So, Jazakallah for that summary. So, Coming to mutual responsibility and sustaining a relationship, I think the other thing that's extremely important is being able to set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we're in a relationship, it's okay to have boundaries. To say, this is what works for me, this is what doesn't work for me. Because what happens is that we think that setting boundaries is a bad thing, but it's not. Because what it does is it stirs respect. And so we understand one another. Because let's say, for example, you don't like someone to, let's say, walk into your room without knocking. That's an important boundary to set, because eventually you're gonna keep quiet, and then this person's gonna walk in and walk in and walk in, and then eventually you're going to fester that, and then it might come out in another way, and so the relationship breaks down, but no words are said, but it just breaks down because of this underlying resentment. And things happen like that all the time. So it's important to set boundaries so the other person knows. And with setting boundaries, it also has to do, there's an overlap with expectations also, because like I say, every person is different. What works for one person might not work for another person. And when a boundary is crossed and you don't put an end to it, the other person doesn't know that bothers you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also, we say we are enablers. So if I don't say that doesn't work for me, the assumption on the other person's side is that it's okay to walk into the room without knocking because you didn't say anything. So again, it comes down to effective communication, but being able to set those boundaries. And then related to forgiveness is to let go. Sometimes we harbor and we fester and we remember. But, if you just think about the concept of letting go, it's almost like this relief that comes from just freeing yourself from this heavy burden. And that's what it is to, in a way, heal. And then I mentioned the rebuilding trust is very, very important, but also very difficult. So in an attempt to build trust, I think two people, or ever many people, need to be willing to trust again and give the other person the opportunity. And so one person has to be willing to make the effort. So it comes with effort, and it comes down to willingness when you look at rebuilding trust. And then again, related to trust, related to communication, is to be open and honest, and communicate and being able to express your feelings. So that's one of also the characteristics of a healthy relationship, which I'm going to go through just now, is feeling free and comfortable to express your thoughts and your feelings, right? And then being able to recognize when you need help. That's again important, because sometimes you can try to work on a relationship on your own, and you might get someone to mediate, or you might get someone to intervene. But it's important to say, okay, now we've tried everything possible, and I think we need formal help, right? And then again, this is a nice thing. It's time to heal. Just say, for example, I say to you, Maryam, I've hurt you and I want to fix this thing. And I can't just expect you just to click my fingers and expect you to say, oh, okay, fine, now everything's back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's something you have to work through, and you need to allow people to heal. Again, I think the marital relationship is an excellent example when we talk of a topic like this. Again, let's say, for example, there's infidelity or whatever it is, and then, or there's a violation of trust or breach of trust, and then there's this thing that, okay, fine, I apologize, let it go, just leave it. One is forgiveness is a process, and people need time to heal. And the third thing is there has to be that sense of understanding and compassion. It's not like, okay, I did something wrong to you, get over it, I apologize. We have to show a level of sensitivity. But then again, it comes to two people making that effort. I have to be willing to get past this, and you have to allow me the time and the understanding and even the sensitivity to get through it. Also, when we related to conflict resolution, related to communication, when we address stuff, to be very, very specific. And that is why the always and never work. Because when I say, oh, you always do that, or you always say this, it doesn't work because we need to be specific. I need to say, do you remember? Okay, so we did this. This is what happened. This is what I didn't like about it. This is what. So it's very specific. That's how you can resolve an issue. So then going into my last area, when we talk about what does, as opposed to, earlier when we started the program, we spoke about signs of concern or signs of an unhealthy relationship, and we look at some of the things that indicate a positive relationship or a good relationship. And the one requirement for a healthy relationship is commitment. Again, even if you take a work relationship, the work environment, you have to get colleagues that are committed to their work, to the establishment, to the place of work. That always helps any relationship, to a marriage, to a friendship. Then we spoke about there's a place where you feel like your boundaries are respected and it's applied, so you're comfortable in that space because your boundaries won't be crossed. Your needs are understood. Your feelings, you're able to freely express your feelings, and you feel heard and you feel listened to. Communication is open and honest, and with openness and honesty comes a level of trust. The other thing that's specific to healthy relationships, we talk about mutual vulnerability. In other words, you feel safe. So you're not afraid to let down your guard. You and the other person are okay to feel vulnerable in that relationship because you know that you're protected. The other thing is mutual support. So again, I can be vulnerable because I know I have the support structures that go with that relationship. And the last thing I want to say is a healthy relationship does not imply complete access. So let's say, for example, I'm in a marital relationship. That doesn't mean that I can't set, again, it's about boundaries. So it doesn't mean that I'm in a healthy relationship. It doesn't imply that the other person has a privy to my personal mail, my emails, my letters, my phone, my space, my cupboard. So it's okay to have a relationship, a healthy relationship, where you still have a level of privacy over certain things.
Now, quickly, Anisa, when should you walk away from the relationship?
Okay, so that's a bit of a tricky one for a lot of people. And again, it's about going back to evaluating this relationship. Does the negatives outweigh the positives? And then I need to look at, can those negatives be fixed? Is the other person willing to help me fix the relationship? What, again, so, the first point that I mentioned about reevaluating is a very important question. So when you evaluate your relationship, you're asking yourself important questions. What meaning does this relationship have for me? Does it add value to me? Does it add to the quality of my life, or does it take away from me? Is it good for me? Do I feel a better person in it, or does it make me someone? And also, we in a lot of other programs, and particularly in this one, for some reason I didn't bring it up, and that's self-esteem. Is there a space? Am I respected in this space, or am I not? Right? And then also, do we share common objectives or outlooks? Are my needs being fulfilled? So those are the key things that you would look at to be able to answer whether this relationship is something you should be staying in. But like I said, most importantly, all these things can be fixed. But it also depends on the other person and whether they want to meet you on it. Because again, it goes back to a relationship being about mutual responsibility. And you cannot sustain a relationship on your own.
All right, so I guess that makes sense. I mean, if somebody does not want to carry on with their relationship, then why force it? Because it as you mentioned earlier, it's mutual. Both parties should want to work on their relationship, and if somebody is not up for that battle, I guess then the person would have to decide for themselves whether it's time to leave and move on, or I don't know, try and try and try again until you try no more?
I think, when we talk about the meaning a relationship has, like, let's say, for example, I add a certain value to the institution of marriage. And it's one of the most important, most intimate relationships. It's something, it's a form of ibadah. So if I say, okay, fine, in my world of values, marriage is a form of ibadat, and so it's something that I have to give my all for, and I will try and I'll hang in there. But I think, we have to make a lot of effort first before we write a relationship off. So again, an important question for me would be, have I done all I can to save this relationship? Have I tried my best? And once I'm satisfied that I've answered that question and I'm confident that, you know what, I did my best and I could not, I haven't been successful in changing this relationship for the better, and it's actually doing more harm to me, then I need to re-look again at what is it that I want. Because again, self-awareness again comes in. What is it that I want for myself? Where do I see myself in this relationship? How do I see myself in this relationship? And we often look at, in relationships, how do I see myself? How do I see the other person in that relationship? Do we see more positives in that person? Do we only see the negatives? And that's a lot of work. Even with building a relationship, it's not as easy. We all know, relationships, like you said, when you started the program, Sister Maryam, you said human beings are very complicated and complex. And yes, the relationships can also become very, very blurred. We often lose sight of lots of things. And so it's important to give it our all and our best attention before we walk away.
All right, Anisa, shukran so much for your time once again and for that information and insight. Please share Islamic Careline's contact details with us and with our listeners.
Jazakallah to you, Sister Maryam, for hosting us every week, and particularly today. Jazakallah to all the listeners for always tuning in and listening to us. I can only hope that we add value to you and your lives, in your household. And I want to end by wishing one and all a very blessed and special Eid Mubarak, and may you enjoy all the good relationships in your life, inshallah. Ameen.
Ameen, and have a wonderful Eid. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
That was Anisa Moosa, the Chief Social Worker at Islamic Careline, talking about rebuilding relationships. You can share your comments with us on our social media platforms about your building relationships and how has your relationships improved. To take this advice as well and implement it. It is 11:33. Just stay with us. We will be right back.